Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I am so grateful for our friends at Blue Microphones. Not only have they completely changed what our show sounds like, they've given me headphones so I can monitor things better. This is the mic for millions of creative people, and now I know why. I'm so grateful for them completely changing the quality of our audio. You'll find Blue mics like Yeti and the Mouse, which we're using here, both in pro studios and home studios, literally all over the world. Their popular Yeti caster is a Blue Yeti microphone plus a boom arm system that's behind many of your favorite podcasts. Run into them all the time, and now I know why. If you've ever thought about creating your own podcast or YouTube channel, Blue can make you sound and look great. Just visit bluemic.com and click Get Started, and you can start telling your story. As we're gradually moving back to opening schools and businesses and, of course, our in-person interactions, I want to remind you, this is all time with cold and flu season getting going. Staying hydrated is key to helping your body deal with the added stress and with the upcoming flu season. My regular fans have heard me talk about a product called Hydrolite for a long time now. It's an amazing rapid rehydration drink. It's a mix that, well, we're obsessed with here. I'm excited to announce they've just released Hydrolite Plus Immunity, just in time for cold and flu season. Hydrolite Plus Immunity starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of immune-boosting ingredients. Each single-serve, easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 300 milligrams of elderberry extract, creates what is hopefully immune-boosting formula that's high in antioxidants and zinc. Combining this with Hydrolite's 7 key electrolytes, it's a fantastic way to stay proactive and properly hydrated. Hydrolite Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-to-pour powder sticks that rapidly dissolve in water and make a great tasting drink that has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all natural flavors, and it is gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and it is vegan. And you can find Hydrolite Plus by visiting hydrolite.com/Dr. Drew. Again, that's HYDRALYTE.com/DRDRW. And be sure to use our code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout for a special discount.
Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Yes, Tom Cigar, what in Sam Hill are we doing here? Tom Cigar had the great reaction to seeing that we were streaming today. And because we had said we were not, and thank you for listening when I say those things. But something happened today. I'll tell you a story very, very quick. I just want to review and remind people about our people that support us, the Halodyne guys. Again, I use these whenever I go out, whenever I travel. The UVC eye wand, don't forget that. And of course, Hydrolite saved me when I was recovering from COVID. And it's funny, a little story on the Blue mic. Today, what did Dr. Oz people say today, Susan?
Very cool mic.
No, they said best sound they'd heard from anybody zooming into their show.
And very cool mic.
So yeah, they immediately identified it as a Blue mic. So thank you for supporting people.
We finally got your sound together and your picture for Zoom. So I'm very happy.
And we'll see if they sync up.
Yeah, we'll find out.
I think the numbers speak for themselves. Of course, down here in LA County, we're still in the hottest spot going. California, with all its lockdowns, there's graphs out there circulating around that show when lockdown started, this thing escalated. And in fact, a new study came out of Stanford today, was fairly scathing on lockdowns in multiple countries, essentially saying that lockdowns not only don't work, they make things worse, which is something I've been concerned about from the beginning. Yeah. Now, there were 2 other studies that they quoted in this particular article saying, but there were other studies that showed it did work. I looked at those studies. One was from the Oxford University group that's been wrong on everything. And the other was a group of studies that did not include the United States. And all of them were talking about the prevention of the so-called second wave that we are in now anyway, in spite of lockdown. So those are null and void studies. They make no sense in this context. So why did I come on today? I came on today because I got an email from one Steve Kirsch, and the material he was presenting was so interesting to me, and it had been pulled out of the press for reasons I don't understand. So I had 2 reactions. One was, I'd like to discuss this. It looks interesting. And number 1, if the press isn't going to report it, which I don't understand why not, I want to give him a chance to present his data. And we'll bring the doctors in that are involved with this on a later date from Emory down in Atlanta. But let me bring in Steve Kirsch. Steve, welcome.
Thanks, Drew.
Did I get that story about right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how did you get involved in all this? You're not a physician. You're not a medical person per se. What happened?
Yeah, I'm a high-tech serial entrepreneur. I've started multiple companies in Silicon Valley, and I was running my digital money startup and got locked down. COVID, I have multiple risk factors. I'm 64 years old, and I looked at the odds, and the odds said if I got COVID, I'd have a pretty good chance of dying. So I had a choice. I could like lock down forever and be a hermit until this is over, or until I got vaccinated, or I could figure out a way to accelerate the end of the pandemic. So my wife was sewing masks. I didn't like to sew. So slide 28, if you want
Susan, here we
to
go.
put up the slide.
Oh, okay. Wait, hold
Now's
on.
Now's your time.
Sorry.
Okay.
While you're putting that up, let me just say that people are quoting a study about toxilizumab and seralulimab. Toxilizumab is not that clearly beneficial, although some new studies came out today showing they might help in critically ill patients. But in any event, let's go on with this particular medicine.
Anyway, so didn't like to sew, so I'd been funding scientists doing medical research for the past 20 years, and I just talked to the scientists and listened to what they had to say. And they had to say basically three things: that drug repurposing is the fastest and cheapest way to end the pandemic. It doesn't always work. In fact, for viruses, it has a pretty poor track record. But it's kind of like the first thing that you reach for. Like if you saw a fire in the kitchen, you reach for the fire extinguisher.
But you understand that has been completely politicized, and physicians are afraid to even do what they normally do that way.
Well, they shouldn't be, because it's the obvious thing to do.
Just by me bringing up ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, YouTube will probably cancel. Will probably bring down this video.
I have some good news for you. I have some good news for you, because I got Tess Lowry's video on ivermectin reinstated today.
Oh, well done.
It is now up and live, because I reached out to a Google exec that I knew, and he reached out to the head of YouTube, and they restored Tess's video.
Susan, we know who we are going to go to now when we get censored by social media.
Yeah, so, and I talked to Pierre Corey as well. And he said, look, just make sure that ivermectin is not a dirty word on YouTube anymore, so that we don't get censored. And I said, okay,
physicians are a very touchy group. They get scared very easily because we're busy doing what we're doing, and we don't want to take on more liability just because we're not paying attention.
Yeah, I think YouTube was probably well-meaning, because the CDC first had put up saying ivermectin, we can't recommend this, and now they just changed the recommendation to it's a no-go for us. We're not sure. It's conflicting data. There are studies that show it does nothing. There are studies that show that it can actually kill people, or it's worse than a placebo. But in fact, if you looked at the data that they published, it's not true.
That's not true.
And yeah, it's not true. It's crazy.
But whatever.
Yeah. So
complain about my mic volume, Susan.
So we got that handle.
No, that's because I had you doing Dr. Oz. Okay, sorry guys.
But go ahead. So this is how we do this thing to you. I'm sorry, but keep going. So that's what we do in medicine: is we improvise, we reach for things we've got. It's always what we've done. Then the randomized placebo-controlled studies follow, and our clinical experience guides us until we have those studies. This is how medicine is always practiced, and for God knows what reason that has not happened during this pandemic.
No, it's been the reverse, and it's been tragic, because people are waiting for the phase 3 data on this when it's completely obvious to anybody with a brain. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have a medical degree to figure this one out for fluvoxamine.
All right, so that's the drug. We're talking about Luvox, which is a medicine. I was still working in the psych hospitals full time when Luvox hit. It was a medicine for sort of obsessive compulsive disorders. Psychiatrists use a lot of it at the beginning, and then they kind of fell out of favor. It's a strange drug for them to have reached for. Why did they reach for that one?
Because there were a bunch of interesting things that happened. So slide 9.
Susan, slide 9.
Sorry. I saw
so this was
so I've been sick for 3 weeks with COVID, and I'm literally still not well, so I'm technically a non-hauler as of today.
Yeah, no, you need to be. I mean, I guess I can give you medical advice. This
sure.
is okay.
Yeah.
that you should be on fluvoxamine. Seriously.
I'm thinking about it. If I keep getting better, I need to.
Don't think. You need to talk to your doctor.
I've been on a lot of medicine the course of this illness. I
know that.
So let's make a one point that both of us agree clearly. Viruses do damage over time. So the goal is to decrease the viral load, decrease the viral infectivity, so it decreases the damage to the body. Period. That is medicine 101. And we've done the opposite again during this pandemic. So I took ivermectin and doxycycline, all kinds of things early. Then I took Decadron and bamlanivimab after that, and had great benefit from all that. I would have been in the hospital for sure without all that treatment.
Right, but now you're still in the inflammation stage.
A little bit.
And this is what fluvoxamine goes after primarily, is the inflammation stage, because it's the inflammation stage that does all the damage. It does brain damage, it does organ damage, it does permanent damage.
Yeah.
And so you want something. So what fluvoxamine does is it activates the sigma-1 receptor, and it's a very strong sigma-1 agonist, which means it's basically telling the sigma-1 to go and pour water on the fire. It's kind of like you're calling the fire department out and say, let's pour water on this inflammatory response so nothing happens. And we're going to, let me just jump right into Dr. Seftel's study. So slide number 12. So there was a big outbreak at Golden Gate Fields. 300 people got infected. And the doctor there, I had been when the JAMA article about fluvoxamine came out on November 12th. I was on this doctor's, it was a Zoom call, and I was talking about fluvoxamine and the study that was published that day. And
you're talking about the JAMA study? Is this the JAMA study?
Yeah.
Or? Yeah.
No. This is a subsequent study.
Ah.
So the JAMA study, if you go to slide 11,
that's what all of us read. We saw that one.
Right. You saw this one.
I saw that one, and I ended up just scratching my head going, how could that be?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's because it activates sigma-1, which is a key inflammatory regulator for this disease. So let's go to the next slide. And what happened was, basically, I was on this guy's Zoom call telling him about this study on the previous slide. And it turned out like 3 days later, there's this outbreak at Golden Gate Fields. And this guy just happens to be the same doc. He is the track doctor for Golden Gate Fields. So this is like a perfect storm. And so he knows about the drug. And he's one of these cool, doctors who will, because the doctors are always told, oh, this is just a hypothesis.
Yeah. Be careful.
Don't do anything until it's proven in a phase 3. Don't tell your patients about it.
I'm stunned. I guess the younger physicians have really been just indoctrinated into evidence-based, which is of course what we all want to do, but evidence-based is a treacherous territory.
It is very.
You want to rely on your clinical judgment more than evidence-based, but go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's bring up the slide again, because I want to point out something on it. So what Seftel did is he offered this drug to the infected workers at Golden Gate Fields. And these are primarily Latino. So it's a really, these are going to have a much higher rate of hospitalization than normal people.
Yep.
So you can look in the right-hand column, you say, 12.5% hospitalization. This is actual hospitalization and death rate for this group. I mean, it's Latino, it's very poor, they live in, not the best conditions, and they all, sort of congregate and so forth. So you're getting a big dose of virus when you get hit. 12.5% hospitalization rate, actual hospitalization and death rate. And when you recover, 25% of them had long haul COVID, meaning they had 5 or more symptoms 2 weeks later.
3 weeks. Technically, it's 3 weeks. Was it 2 weeks then?
No, he's defining it here as 2 weeks.
Okay.
In his study.
Well,
because
I
wanted to get the data out.
And you're pointing out something I've been talking about a little bit lately, which is that the morbidity of this thing is far more influential than the mortality. And people focused on the mortality again in our panic porn that we're into these days.
Yeah,
okay, so there's the study. Zero hospitalization in the fluvoxamine group.
And zero long haul.
And how much were they using?
That's the key deal.
How much were they using?
Oh, they're using 50 milligrams twice a day.
In that study, because I think wasn't the JAMA study 103 times a day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I saw your video on it, and I said, look, he's right. You're overdosing
It's a lot.
the drug.
It's a lot. Yeah.
They're dosing the drug for OCD. People don't have OCD.
Right. Well, that bad
They have
OCD,
COVID.
like terrible OCD.
Right. They have COVID.
Yeah.
And the
really
point,
help you,
and
though, Drew.
what we
What's that?
found
It would
was,
help your OCD too.
I know. I told you.
oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
by the
Well,
way,
if you're
interestingly,
depressed about being getting COVID, sure.
well, but isn't it interesting that some of the post-viral syndromes, since the 80s, we've treated with antidepressants, right? Not Luvox, not Fluvoxamine, but I'm assuming there's some of these same mechanisms at play here.
Yes.
And I noticed from the illness, my tendency towards OCD got worse. Isn't that interesting? For whatever
Yeah,
that's.
it is, and I think there's something to that. But the reason they chose fluvoxamine is because it's a very potent sigma-1 agonist.
Right.
And so of the SSRIs, and because there was a French study that showed the SSRIs were protective, and there are lots of studies that show that, but they couldn't figure out why is Prozac more protective than some of the other SSRIs. And we found that there was a reason for that. If you go to slide number 17, we plotted it out. We plotted out the sigma-1 receptor affinity versus the relative risk. And so sertraline, or is I'm not sure the one at the top there.
Sertraline was the least effective, or flu.
No, it was because it's an antagonist.
Yeah.
Right, it's high affinity, but it's an antagonist, so it does the opposite. And so it didn't protect you at all. But fluvoxamine, was super protective because it activates fluoxetine and fluvoxamine. Both of those have high sigma-1 agonist properties, and they were the most protective. And so basically, we confirmed that sigma-1 is playing a big factor here. Now, there are other factors at work, but when the French saw the SSRIs were effective, we could then order them by, that was a German study that she just flashed on. So you can go back. Yeah, so here's a German study. Completely separate result. And they found that the only thing that was really interesting is like vitamin K antagonists were protective, but depression was protective. But depression is synonymous with SSRIs, which are protective because of the sigma-1. And so,
if the presumption is you're taking an SSRI if you have depression.
Yeah. Well, no. Normally, when they say depression was a risk factor, depression is associated with an SSRI, and SSRIs in general are associated with sigma-1 activation.
Interesting. And so you were going to publish an article in the LA Times today, right?
Yes.
Was it?
Well, not today.
Did they run through this data with you?
We talked about it all. So you're getting into the why isn't this in the paper?
Well, I'm getting into that. Why it's not in the paper, although nothing astonishes me anymore. But okay.
The LA Times.
But I'm wondering, during the interview, did they call into question the study or the materials or the process or the analysis?
The LA Times person that I talked to was very thorough in talking to everyone.
But I understand, but being thorough, but did they seem not just skeptical, but as though they were feeling that there wasn't enough evidence in the data you were presenting?
No, he was absolutely convinced.
Okay, so why did they pull it?
Well, it hasn't run yet. So let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get in, have any issues.
All right, we won't jinx it.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. I was interviewed for a story with the LA Times, and we will see what happens.
Might just be timing.
But here the problem in general is one of fear. And when I like to tell people that if you go to slide 5,
Hey, before you go on, I've got
Yeah.
I've got a psych nurse administrator here. Anthony, tell me, listen carefully. And Casey, if Anthony admits what I'm saying, but text this over to him. We've got what we're presenting is fluvoxamine or Prozac being helpful in reducing COVID hospitalizations and long hauler
But
symptoms.
no, careful. Because what we have to be, like, you have to be really careful with this data, right? Because the observational data is people who are on Prozac.
Well, that's what he's in a,
and
it's a
Prozac
psych unit. It's a psych unit, and that's why I'm framing it that
Oh,
way for
oh
him.
yeah.
And so I'm wondering if he has seen or noticed that people on Prozac. In fact, he could do the study right there and take a look at it, the people's medical records. But
We've done that.
Yeah. So Anthony, any sense that you have that people on Prozac or fluvoxamine had a better time with their COVID? He had a huge outbreak in his unit, like half the unit broke
By the
out.
way, flip to slide 24.
All right.
If you can bring that up. You'll find this really fascinating.
Oh, there you go.
I asked my sister-in-law, as a psychiatrist, if she would recommend fluvoxamine to me if I was COVID positive. She wondered why, right? And she said, "Oh, hey, that's interesting. I just treated depression in the hospitalized COVID kid with Lexapro and was shocked by his improvement over the next 2 days."
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's something there.
And
and-
you were going to show another slide before that. 24, did you say?
I think it was.
Let's see.
Well, I guess you guys are
No, that was 24.
going back. You guys are
Yeah.
presently doing a randomized controlled trial. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay.
So the follow-on study, because it's all about. So if you go to slide number 3, is basically you don't get, even in a pandemic, right? It used to be they lowered the bar for the pandemic, and what happened is hydroxychloroquine just leapt over the bar, and then people said, "Oh shit, that was a mistake. We need to raise the bar and put it back up there." And so you only get over the bar, you only get CDC approval if you either get an EUA or a phase 3 trial. So that's why we're doing the phase 3 trial. But right now the data is so obvious that, hey, if I got sick, I'm like reaching for the fluvoxamine. I mean, I've already got a prescription for it.
And do you have this published in one place? Obviously, the JAMA article is a good article, but is your material available somewhere? Like, I'm going to discuss it with my doctor. If I'm sick after the weekend, I'm definitely going to think about this.
Yeah, so sure. So I have a website, skirsch.io, or you can go and do a Google search and you type in Quora COVID treatment. And I'm the top ranked article for how you treat COVID.
What is
Quora.
the Quora sound? How's that spelled?
Quora.
Quora. So that's one of those educational forums, right?
Yeah, it's a Q&A
Yeah.
website.
Got it. Very interesting, Steve. I'm so glad that we hooked up today and threw this out there. I've got some of my all-stars in the thread here watching our discussion, and they will chew on this and spit something back, I guarantee you.
Our COVID fanatics.
Yeah. Anthony, you don't have to go check the medical records right this second. You can go ahead and email me later or whatever. Take your time. But it's just an interesting phenomenon that is associated with a particular it's an agonist or an antagonist of this sigma-1 receptor.
It's an agonist.
Agonist.
Let me show you slide.
listening.
If you show slide 26, I want to, if we're out of time here.
No, we're good. It's
Oh,
mostly
okay.
my energy levels that are the issue.
I love your slides.
Yeah, well,
by
the
way.
fluvoxamine, trust me, you will be an advocate for this after you take this drug.
Right.
But here's someone who is an intubated patient, and this person is about to die, and they get a consent to give fluvoxamine for 15 days. So he takes the fluvoxamine, you see on day 1, and look what happens to his CRP. It like immediately drops the next day, goes down, comes up a little bit more, and then keeps going down. And it's like back to, better than baseline. It's about like that 0. But the 15 days expired. And they tried to renew the authorization, and they couldn't renew the authorization. So they had to take the drug away. The person died.
Oh, my God.
The person, you can see what happened to his CRP. You're not seeing any more dots because he's dead.
Oh,
That is gravely concerning. And now I don't know. They need to be able to explain that because.
Oh, you can't. You can't. You can't say that was coincidence.
No. I'm saying we need to really understand what was going on with the virus during those 2 weeks, because is it possible? I mean, somebody could easily raise the issue and just go, "Huh. Well, I guess he was going to die anyway." But maybe what we're seeing is this virus really percolating along and getting more intense, just suppressed by the sigma-1 agonism, and then it explodes when you take that away.
No, because it's not the virus that kills you.
Yeah, I understand.
What kills you is the inflammatory response. And what this drug does is it pours water on the response.
I get what you're saying. I get it, but why would I just think we need to explain that. That's all I'm saying. Is that why in 2 weeks? I would expect in 2 weeks it would sort of go up and then go back down again. No big deal. But the fact that it exploded is a little concerning. Is all I'm saying. Clinically.
Well, he wasn't on the drug before. Right.
I hear you. I get it. Listen, this is not an indictment on the drug. It's just something that needs to be explained. Because, for instance, all right, let's say I go on it. How long should I be on it for?
Probably, it really depends on where you are in the disease. So if you get it early, we just recommend people are on it for 14 days.
But how do I prevent? What if I'm early in the disease and I'm into the inflammatory phase? And my CRPs are up, and I'm, getting shortness of breath, but I'm okay. I'm at home.
No, but you will never.
Isn't that going to happen to me when I try to drop the drug?
No, because you take the drug early, the fire never gets started.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, what if it? So I had pretty severe inflammation going.
Yeah, you did.
And again, I worry about it kicking up again. I'm sure.
Right. But that's why I'm saying take the drug now, even though you're really late in the disease, it's still going to work.
And you're using it in the long haulers as well, which is technically where I'm at. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Are you using it in the chronic states?
No. I mean, it's basically it's all used on an acute basis. So all of these things, you have a list of, this causes this, and you see the list of side effects. You don't see any of that when you're using on an acute basis. The only thing you might see is a little nausea if you're taking it 50 milligrams twice a day. I've had one person, a friend of mine who had COVID. She took it. She said, I was a little nauseous, for the 7 days that I took it. And then I stopped it and the nausea went away. That is the worst. Most people at the 50 milligrams twice a day, they have no side effects at all.
Well, it's a modest dose. That's a modest dose.
It's a very modest dose.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised at that. I wouldn't.
But it's more than adequate for. So you're gonna. I want you to try this and come back on air in a week from now, and tell people what happened. Because I've never seen it fail.
It's not about. I fastidiously try not to self-prescribe, and I'll talk to my doctor about it. But I feel, but I like the idea that I would be presenting the patient perspective of something that could be very useful.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no better salesperson than the doctor who took it themselves.
Yeah. Well, I've been screaming
nothing
about
else worked.
The monoclonal antibodies work like crazy for me, and I've been talking about that a lot. Susan, could you put the medication chart back up there again? People are asking about specific medicines. They're
the medication chart.
The one where the fluvoxamine and the paroxetine and the sertraline and all the names of the what number was that, Steve?
Yeah,
let's see. This is slide number 17.
And we'll come back. Who
studies?
Yeah. Is the doctor? There it is. So paroxetine, not so much, right? Citalopram.
Yeah, because it had very little. That is of the. It had the worst sigma-1 activation, and so you can see it was the least protective.
And the only two you should be considering really are the Prozac and the Luvox. That's it. Fluvoxamine.
If you can't get fluvoxamine, Prozac, the problem with Prozac is that it has a much longer time constant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's much more gradual, and we want to attack this virus, instantly.
Very true.
So that's why fluvoxamine is a better choice. It's more rare. I mean, it's like 1/100th of the, it's like Prozac is like 100 times more popular than fluvoxamine.
Yeah.
But, it took me a day. Like when I gave them my prescription for fluvoxamine, it took a day and I got it. And the drug is like super cheap. It's like 25 cents a pill. right? So it's like 50 cents a day.
People are asking about using it as a prophylactic agent. Is there any thoughts about that? Any studies?
You know, you could, but what you're not really. No, and actually nobody knows about this because, you know, like for ivermectin, does it really prevent you from getting the virus, or does it just treat the virus as soon as you get it?
Early, right.
Is it early treatment?
Right.
You know, so look, if you're worried about it, sure, you could take fluvoxamine as a prophylactic. Maybe you take 50 milligrams once a day, you know, instead, and you give yourself an edge.
And so the original study was in JAMA. It was with a lot more, and you talked to those researchers, correct? Yeah.
I funded them.
The JAMA study.
Yeah, I funded that study.
Oh, and what are those guys doing now? Why are they not lecturing? Why are they not raising awareness amongst peers and things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're like, well, we can't raise awareness among peers because we just have a phase 2 trial, and no one will believe the phase 2 trial.
Got it.
And so when Dr. Seftel went off the reservation and basically said, hey, I'm going to try this on my patients. I'm not going to wait for a phase 3 trial. That'll be months.
Mm-hmm.
And he got the data. Basically, we can't talk about this until it's published because nobody will believe it. But once it's published, and it's already been accepted for publication with changes. So once it's out there, we actually have a Zoom call that was scheduled by Dr. Jeffrey Klausner. And I talked to Dr. Klausner, and he's like skeptical. I said, look, how could you not like this drug? Everything, there's 100% of the data that's out there that says it works. That's like better than ivermectin, right? Which is, you know,
way better. Yeah.
Right, because it's different dosings and all that. But here, the data is all consistent. The data all says, and you can't find a piece of evidence that says it doesn't work. And the effect size for both clinical trials was 100%. And you know what he said? The reason that he was skeptical?
Too good to be true.
Exactly.
I know. That's why I'd be skeptical too.
Exactly. He said it was too good to be true. That's exactly what he said.
It's a common scientific position. When things seem too good to be true,
he said there must be something wrong. He said that in the Seftel study that the people who went for the drug must have had something different they were doing. Yeah. He said they must have taken something else.
All that's been in my head. It's all been in my head. I understand it's more than just that study. He from
said
your
it was
perspective.
Too good to be true.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, Jeff, you cannot explain. There were 8 crossovers because there were 8 people who were sick in the no treatment group, and they said, I want the drug. Please put me in the treatment group. So Dr. Seftel, because he's not restricted, right? If there's a clinical trial, you're not allowed to do that.
That's right.
So he said, sure, do that. Put me into the treatment group. Those people turned around in 3 days.
That's what do you say to that? That's actually a very powerful indicator.
He couldn't answer that.
Did he acknowledge that's a powerful observation?
Well, look, let me tell you this. Dr. Klausner, who's the skeptic, he now said, look, I want to organize all of my infectious disease docs, and we want to have a Zoom call, and it's scheduled for next Friday.
Oh, good. Okay.
So here's my skeptic wanting to brief all of his peers. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Because, so we need to
highly respected.
We need to kind of, if you'll permit me, I would like to bring you back in maybe next week or early the following week to kind of chronicle how this is progressing, because people who get COVID do come and look at these streams, and they're dying for information, and everything is so.
Don't say the word dying.
Yeah, dying. Yeah, right.
They are not dying because they're getting good information, but they're anxious to get that information.
Right.
And they're really it's confusing for people out there. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what to believe, and it's pretty crazy. And we have a lot of good. Andrew Ashkashvili, why are you saying wait until next Friday? We have a lot of good minds on my thread here that push
I like
things
that.
out.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
You know, and I have some advice. You know, people may, you know, you should always talk to your doctor, right? Because they're you know, if you're taking certain drugs, there can be dangerous drug interactions. So, you know, always talk to a doctor about this.
Oh yeah, we are not giving medical advice. We're not
giving medical advice. No, we're always telling people to talk to their doctor.
Although you're telling me to take
Mike can give you medical advice. That's okay.
Don't take your
right, you're a doctor.
ADD medicine this week. Okay?
Oh, that's so funny.
We're not worried about that.
That is really funny.
But yeah, when you talk to doctors, you basically want to ask them like one question. Do you have any evidence at all that says that this drug either doesn't work or could harm me?
Well,
And the
be
answer
careful,
has
Steve.
to be,
I would point at that study on the guy that came off the ventilator and then off the drug. That's what I would point at and go,
no,
I can't really explain
no,
that.
no, but that he was only harmed when he got off the drug.
I know, I understand what you're saying. You're not used to reading this literature. I'm used to reading this stuff, and I'm telling you that's something that's going to keep people's attention. Trust me.
But it's important for people to then look at that firsthand, because I can tell you that nobody has ever shown me a shred of evidence that is any different than this drug is effective.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line here.
Have we covered the slides, or we said everything we need to say about the formal material?
Oh, let's see. There's some. I think the slide number 15.
Okay, Susan.
Well, let me say let's go 14 first, and then we go 15.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Yeah. So 14. So this is interesting. When Dr. Seftel offered the drug to these racetrack workers, Seftel is track physician for 7 years at Golden Gate Fields. And he offers the drug, and he's like Mr. Trusted, like he is revered among the people that work at the racetrack. And so you would think that they would all trust the doctor, and that they would all go and say, yes, doctor, I will follow your advice. No, 60% of them said, I don't need it. I'm as healthy as a horse.
That is medicine, my friend.
Yeah. And so they refused. They said, no, I'm not going to take your advice. Okay. So what happens is 2 weeks later, it goes to 100%. People are proactively asking him, I want to be on the drug group.
Because they heard about it.
No, because they saw their friends dying. They saw their friends.
That's what. Yeah. Hey.
No, and that's the convincer.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's better than any doctor selling it. Is that the convincer is seeing your friends hospitalized or dead.
Joe Giannotti, I'm going to have Steve once again put out the website where you can find the information. And I would love you to give that to Dr. Yo, if you would. We have sort of physicians that come in and out of this thread that are trying to build consensus on these treatments that no one can talk about.
What is it again?
It's the
so it's on there. It's on the screen. skirsch.io.
Okay, I thought
that's where all this. That's where the slide. That's where this deck is also.
Yeah. So Drew, it used to be on Medium.
Yeah.
But I was banned for life.
Oh my God.
They banned me for life. I've been on Medium for 6 years. They banned me for life. Because I said fluvoxamine worked 100% of the time.
Right.
I was telling the truth. I could have said, oh, it might work, but that would be a lie.
Wouldn't there be a nice lawsuit?
If you tell the truth, you get banned.
A nice lawsuit if they prevented people from seeing something that would have saved potentially.
You would think, but they have this disclaimer that says, we're not liable for any consequential damages. We can drop you off the site at any time.
Right.
I wrote them. I offered them $5 million. I said, look, let's do a JAMS arbitration or mediation, right? Because that's what their terms of service say is we'll go to JAMS. And I said, look, I will put up $5 million. You guys put up $5 million. You guys are so convinced I'm giving out dangerous advice.
Right.
Here's $5 million for you. And if I win the $5 million, I'm going to just turn it around and give it away to the COVID Early Treatment Fund to fund the scientists. So it's like a win-win.
Yeah.
It didn't respond.
No, of course
they didn't respond. No, and I asked them, could you have like one shred of evidence that says fluvoxamine didn't work in a case? And they said, no, it was just our opinion that it was dangerous advice.
Yeah, I know.
And they're doctors, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, wait, they're not? They're just tech guys? Oh, okay.
Just give me one shred of evidence.
Guys in Thailand. Okay. They don't know.
It was so frustrating.
Listen, and people are asking about is venlafaxine related? No, these dual agents, we're not talking about that. And somebody wanted us to talk about RLF 100, which we talked about with Dr. Yo extensively. Dr. Patterson has a bunch of data on that. That's good for critically ill patients, by the way. It is very good.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the promising drugs.
Yeah, and so although I've gotten it for patients and it didn't turn things around when I thought it might, so it's not a panacea, trust me. Okay, well, Steve, I got to go. I have to run do another thing here. Again, the
time has flown by.
I know. Just to get this deck, we go to skirsch.io. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah, and
what-
there are a bunch of. It's posted in a bunch of articles. So maybe there are like a couple of articles.
And what is the Quora site? The Quora.
Quora is a question and answer site. So if you in Google, if you just type Quora COVID treatment, then the #1 hit in Google is actually my article. So if you click on it, it has Steve Kirsch's answer to how to treat
Susan,
COVID.
I'm going to put that in there. Quora.
Yeah,
It's
type it
one
on the
word.
restream.
COVID treatment.
No. Quora
3 words.
space COVID
Yeah.
space treatment, and it's probably the simplest way to find my article because it shows up in the
Okay.
top hit.
All right.
We did have one question with a super chat that
Okay.
we missed
Okay,
earlier,
okay.
and it was from somebody from Australia because it's Australian dollars. I don't know who it was, but it says, "Hi, Dr. Drew. Wondering if my mom's CLL puts her at risk for other cancers. Keep them high and tight, and thanks for letting me know if she can be vaccinated. If she can be
That she has to talk to her hematologist. I'm betting they will vaccinate her. It depends how her CLL is going. CLL can blast off into other things. They tend to be very circumspect with treating CLL. The treatments are rather mild, and they step them up very slowly because CLL usually is quite mild. It's quite mild, and it's common in elderly patients as well. The problem is when it morphs into some more dangerous stuff, and so that's what they watch very carefully about. And it depends how high her cell count is. That if her cell count is way up in the tens of thousands, they will treat that a little more aggressively. So. All right, Steve. Well, listen, I look forward to talking to you again. I appreciate so much you connecting with me, and I hope this helps put the word out a little bit and get the discussion going further. And I would like to bring you in again in a week or so.
Yeah.
And see.
Andrew Ashkenazi said, "What are you doing? Going golfing this weekend? Come back sooner."
Oh, he wants. Well, I want to let this thing evolve. I want to see where it goes. I want to see.
Okay,
Yeah.
but Drew, I want you to be on the Fluvoxamine so you can report what happened.
You want me to get better? Is what you want me to get better, and let's hope I'm just better over the weekend. If I'm not better, I promise you, I will be talking about this. Believe me, because this is not fun. This is a weird feeling.
Yeah.
It feels crappy.
Don't delay the drug.
I hear you. I hear you, but there's one of my instincts.
Doctors are terrible patients, you know.
No. Well, I will talk to my doctor about. You're absolutely correct. But there is something to letting your body heal. You know what I mean? There is something.
No.
Well, if you're stuck and not improving, I agree with you. But I'm improving.
No. Go for the drug.
All right.
Go for the drug. You will thank me.
All right. Well,
I want you to trust. You got to trust me on this.
This is pure.
You got to trust me on this.
All right. I'll talk to my doctor sooner than later.
So
Susan will if you don't. So don't worry.
Yeah, I'll never get.
I'm gonna get Susan on your case.
Yeah, I know.
WWM, there is a vaccine distribution problem depending where you are. In Southern California, it is
and we're going to talk
reprehensible.
about that tonight on Fox 11, foxla.com/live at 7 p.m. with Harvey Levin. Who,
no, he's not coming in.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about the vaccination.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Yes, we got a lot of things to talk about there.
And how they're throwing the vials away.
They literally are throwing stuff away
up.
so they stay in their ethical guidelines. It's such an insanity. I can't even tell you.
Vials.
They're not interested in saving lives. Clearly, they've now shown their cards. They're not interested in saving lives. Where are you, Steve?
I'm in Los Altos.
You're up there in Los Altos. You're talking to us from Los Altos.
I am. Yeah.
And Northern California is a little better than Southern California. Southern California is just a crap show. It's really
and I have been trying. I have reached out to mayors. I've reached out to city council. The council members are actually in Santa Clara, Santa Clara, Joe Samidian in Santa Clara. There's some other people in Sacramento. Those politicians are actually, they help connect me to the public health officials in Santa Clara, in Sacramento, and then you're actually. So I get a briefing that way. I can actually get their attention and do a half-hour briefing.
And what happens?
Nothing happens.
Yeah.
Nothing. We ask only, please do one thing. We just want to brief your physicians on sharing the data. We just want to share the data with your physicians.
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Yeah. Well, let's just say that throughout history, the best and brightest didn't necessarily take those jobs. And they've been a little more plumb lately, so there's some good people sprinkled throughout, but the ones that have been there
there's
for a
an
while.
opportunity for one public health official to be a world hero by just allowing us to do one thing, which is just have a Zoom call, just like this call, with their physicians, where the physicians can ask questions about the drug.
Yep.
And about the effect. That's all we ask, is just to share information. And the answer is no. And so every single time.
When is the phase 3 or the RCTs coming out for you? Do we know?
We're enrolling. So Eric Lenz, who's the PI, scoped it at 880 patients because he was, you don't really need that, right? That gives you a p value of 10 to the minus 13 if you have 100% effect size, which is p to the minus 13 is more than what you need. He thought the effect size would be smaller. He thought he got lucky with a 100% effect size, but we're seeing a 100% effect size, even at this really low dose. I mean,
so what you're saying is you can have a smaller N.
Yeah, I think what will happen is that the DSMB will call the study early because they'll look at the data and say, holy shit, it's unethical for us to continue here with the placebo.
What's your estimate on that?
Oh, it all depends on when they decide to have the DSMB take a look at the data. My recommendation is after 200 patients, there should be plenty to see a huge effect. They may want to look, at 300 or 400. I don't control that. But I think what's going to happen is they'll pull the study. They won't enroll the whole 880 that they wanted because it'll be unethical to
it'll be too good. It'll be going too.
Oh yeah. Look, when Seftel gave this drug, he had direct observation of every single patient.
No, I get it.
Every single time, nobody even got close. Like you're good, or you're down here. And once you took the drug, you started going back up again, back to normal, back to 100%.
Yeah, and again,
100% of the time.
The way research is, you tear apart everything. Even the strengths become weaknesses. So people are going to go, oh, one observer, he's biased. Who knows what that was? I'm saying so. I get your point, but everything will get torn apart, which is good. Yeah. I mean, you want that to be assured that
nobody can explain how this happened. And there was even a press article that said, the hospitalization rate of Golden Gate Fields is like there was only a handful of patients that got hospitalized. What the heck was going on there? Yeah. And nobody asked the question. Nobody in the press talked to the doctor to ask them, hey, why is that patient count so low in the hospital?
Of course.
Nobody went to the doctor to ask the questions.
So we have a quick super chat again.
Okay.
Thank you for answering on Mom CAL. Not COVID related, but what do you think about SSNIs for BPD?
Yeah.
I'm
I
currently
answered
on
it.
Effexor. Oh, you answered it?
I answered the thread. The SNIs for borderline personality disorder can be very good if they're working for you. It's a little bit of a trial and error with that stuff, but the SNRIs do good. They're very good. All right, Steve. I'm unfortunately my COVID is kicking in and I'm fading a little bit.
I know somebody on the stream.
Yeah, they saw it.
I love this. 100% of the time, a bit too good to be true. Yes, that's the problem. In fact, doctors are so reticent to even try this on one patient because they think, oh, it's too good to be true.
Are you taking it because you have a lot of energy? Well, give them energy.
No, it's not that. It's judgment. It's the timing of it for me that I'm thinking. I would happily take it, no problem, if this is going the wrong direction. No problem. No. Wrong. Because you can't tell when you have organ damage. You can't tell when you have brain damage. A lot of people with this drug are getting brain damage, and it could be permanent. Right? I understand what you're saying, and there's all this microvascular data, but there is a certain amount of clinical expression of those organ effects, and it's again just let medicine be practiced. I would urge you to allow it, but I will bring it up very very much. I will, and I may end up on it. Could easily happen, and I will certainly, if it's recommended, I certainly will not resist it at all. Trust me. So Steve, we'll talk to you again about a week or so. People want to see me collapse on the red stream. Thank you for that, Anthony. But good luck with this. I think it's going to help a lot of people. Again, I was persuaded that it's an important observation, and that's why I wanted to get you out here. And I was worried that the press was going to silence you because they seem to be doing so. I'm glad you're back on YouTube.
At least we'll be on YouTube because, and I want to thank Susan for bringing back the ivermectin video from Teslauri. So
Good
so I think we have a friend
You have
who's
somebody.
the head of YouTube,
That's
Great.
who now
nice.
realizes that was a mistake. So that's really fortunate.
All right, Steve, thank you so much. We'll see you in about a week or so. And thank you to everyone out there listening here and watching us. We will be back, Susan, Tuesday?
Yes.
All right, back on Tuesday. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Well, I too have struggled with GI issues over the years. I have something called Lynch syndrome. So gut health is extremely important to me. And while gut health awareness has increased, it's led to a wellness trend that's inspired a host of questionable marketing and some false claims. Now, you've seen the word probiotic attached to all kinds of supplements, drinks, even more. They may claim to deliver the healthy microorganisms our gut needs for proper function, but all too often the promises are in fact too good to be true. Thankfully, I became aware of a company called Seed and their flagship product, the Daily Synbiotic. Seed's Daily Synbiotic offers 24 clinically researched strains of microorganisms in a single dose. These strains support gut health and can improve regularity and relieve bloating, sometimes within as little as 24 to 48 hours. To me, what really sets Seed's Daily Synbiotic apart is the delivery system. While some products may offer the right strains, they're fragile, they rarely survive the trip through the gut, doesn't get where it needs to go, but Seed uses a capsule-in-capsule design that helps ensure the probiotic reaches your colon, which is where they often are needed. I have been taking Seed's Daily Synbiotic, and I really encourage you to check out their story and the science behind what they do. To try it for yourself, just go to seed.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20 for 15% off your first month of Daily Synbiotic. That is SEED.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20.